Commander Jake Miller stood at the wide window of the starship Starbound Harmony, watching the massive alien station grow larger against the dark space. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast. After 300 years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, today would give them the answer. The alien station looked like nothing humans had ever built. It was made of what seemed like living crystal that changed colors as their ship approached. Lights moved through it like blood through veins. Jake had seen the pictures during briefings, but seeing it with his own eyes made his mouth go dry. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez walked up beside him, carrying her 3-year-old son Danny on her hip. The little boy pressed his face against the window, his eyes wide with wonder. "Big pretty lights, Mama," Danny said, pointing at the station. Lisa smiled, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. She had not wanted to bring Danny on this mission, but Earth's child care centers were full, and her husband was deployed on Mars. The mission could not wait. "I still think bringing him was a mistake," Jake said quietly. "He'll be fine," Lisa replied, but her voice was tight. The aliens specifically requested to see examples of human development at different stages. Danny represents our youngest phase of growth. Jake nodded, though he was not convinced. The Xantharian Council had been studying human radio and television signals for over 50 years. They knew about human children, but they had never met one face-to-face. Their own species grew up very differently. Some were born already adult. Others developed in ways humans could barely understand. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Lieutenant Ben Carter's voice came through from the bridge. "Commander, we're receiving docking instructions from the station. They're unusual." Jake walked to the nearest wall panel and pressed the button. "How unusual, Ben?" "Well, sir, they're not sending words. They're sending colors, sounds, and what feels like emotions directly into our computers. Our translation systems are working overtime." Jake looked at Lisa. She was the expert on alien cultures, even though no human had ever actually met aliens before today. For the past 5 years, she had studied every signal, every message, every hint the Xantharians had sent to Earth. "It's how they communicate," she explained. "Each species in their council speaks differently. Some use light, some use sound, some use chemical signals. They've developed a way to translate everything into a universal format." Danny squirmed in his mother's arms. "Mama, I want to see the pretty ship." "You are seeing it, sweetie," Lisa said, double quotes. "No, I want to go inside." Jake smiled despite his nervousness. Kids always made everything seem simple. To Danny, this was just another adventure. He had no idea that the future of humanity might depend on the next few hours. The docking process took 20 minutes. Jake felt a slight bump as their ship connected to the alien station. He had trained for this moment for 3 years, but now that it was happening, he felt like he was in a dream. "All crew members to stations," he announced over the ship's intercom. "Prepare for first contact." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Jake stepped through first, followed by Lisa carrying Danny, then the rest of the diplomatic team. The hallway beyond was unlike anything human engineers had ever designed. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting slowly. The floor felt soft under their feet, like walking on thick carpet, but it was clearly made of some kind of metal. A sound like wind chimes filled the air, but Jake realized it was actually speech. Their translation devices worked quickly, turning the sounds into words they could understand. "Welcome, beings of Earth," the voice said. "We are honored to meet you in person." Jake looked around but could not see who was speaking. Then the wall in front of them began to change, becoming transparent. On the other side, he could see the most amazing sight of his life. The room beyond was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. Floating in the center were 12 different kinds of beings, each stranger than the last. One looked like it was made of living crystal, changing colors as it moved. Another appeared to be a cloud of gas that somehow held its shape. A third looked almost like a tree, but with eyes scattered along its trunk. Danny gasped with delight. "Look, Mama! It's like the zoo, but with magic animals." Some of the alien beings made sounds that their translators could not convert to words. Jake hoped they were sounds of amusement rather than offense. The crystal being floated closer to the window. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "I am Resonance of Truth, speaker for the Vortic people. We have waited long to meet humans." Face to face, Jake stepped forward. "I am Commander Jake Miller, representing Earth and humanity. We are grateful for this opportunity." "You're small one," Resonance of Truth said, somehow looking at Danny even though Jake could not see its eyes. "It is truly in its larval stage," Lisa answered before Jake could speak. "Danny is 3 years old. Human children develop slowly compared to many species. They learn about the world through play and curiosity, the gaseous being drifted closer." Its voice sounded like wind through leaves. "I am Cloud Singer of the Nelhari. We find it strange that you bring developing offspring to important gatherings. In our society, the young remain in safe places until they are fully formed." "Human children are tougher than they look," Jake said with a smile, "and they often see things that adults miss." Danny had been listening to the conversation with the serious expression that small children get when adults are talking about important things. Suddenly, he spoke up. "Are you friends?" he asked loudly. The question seemed to surprise the aliens. Several of them made sounds that the translators struggled with. "We hope to become friends," Resonance of Truth finally answered. "That is why we invited your people here." "Good," Danny said with a big smile. "Friends are nice. Do you want to play?" Jake felt his face turn red. "Danny, these are very important people. Beings, they don't have time to play." But to his surprise, several of the aliens made what sounded like pleasant noises. "The young one speaks with refreshing directness," said a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "We have forgotten the simplicity of such questions." Lisa shifted Danny to her other hip. "I apologize if he's being inappropriate." "Human. Children are naturally curious and friendly." "Do not apologize," Cloud Singer said. "We are curious about human development. Perhaps observing your offspring will teach us much about your species." Jake looked around the room at the 12 different types of beings floating before them. Each one represented a civilization thousands of years older than humanity. They had technologies that humans could barely imagine. They had solved problems that Earth was still struggling with. And yet, they seemed genuinely interested in a 3-year-old boy who just wanted to know if they could be friends, maybe bringing. Danny had not been such a mistake after all. The dining hall in the alien station was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The table seemed to grow from the floor itself, shaped like a perfect circle with no visible joints or seams. Around it, 12 different types of chairs had been created to fit each alien species. Some looked normal enough, while others were more like floating platforms or pools of liquid. Commander Jake Miller sat between Dr. Lisa Rodriguez and the Vortic representative, Resonance of Truth. The crystal being did not eat food as humans. Understood it, but instead absorbed energy from colored lights that shone down from the ceiling above its chair. Danny sat in a special human-sized chair that the aliens had, somehow created just for him. He swung his legs back and forth, fascinated by how his feet did not touch the floor. In front of him was a plate of food that the aliens had prepared based on human, nutritional data they had gathered from Earth's broadcast. "This is actually pretty good," said Lieutenant Ben Carter, trying what looked like a piece of chicken, but tasted like something completely different. The tree-like being called Root of Ages made a sound like leaves rustling. "We have studied your food preparation methods with great interest. The way humans combine flavors seems almost artistic compared to our simple energy absorption." Lisa smiled politely. "Food is very important to human culture. We often gather around meals to share stories and build relationships." "Fascinating," said Cloud Singer, the gaseous Nelhari. "We consume nutrients individually as needed. The concept of communal feeding is foreign to us." As they ate, Soft music played in the play. Background. Jake recognized it as an instrumental version of Amazing Grace, one of the songs from Earth's cultural database that they had sent ahead to the aliens. The melody was gentle and peaceful, played on what sounded like a combination of human instruments. And Alien One's Danny had been quietly eating his food, but suddenly he looked up with that bright, curious expression that 3-year-olds get when something catches their attention. "Commander Jake," he said loudly, using the formal title his mother had taught him. Jake looked down at the little boy. "Yes, Danny? What's that pretty song? It makes me feel funny inside." The conversation around the table stopped. All the aliens turned their attention to Danny, their various forms of eyes or sensors focusing on the small human. Jake glanced at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. He looked back at Danny and smiled. "It's called Amazing Grace. It's a very old song from Earth. Why does it make some people look sad and happy at the same time?" Danny asked, pointing around the table. Jake noticed that Danny was right. Several of the human crew members had expressions that mixed sadness with something peaceful. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Watson had tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. Engineer Pete Johnson was staring at his plate, but his face looked calm and thoughtful. The alien delegates leaned forward with interest. This was clearly not the kind of conversation they had expected during a formal diplomatic dinner. "Well," Jake began, trying to think of how to explain it to a 3-year-old. "The song is about making mistakes and getting better. Sometimes people feel sad when they think about mistakes they made, but happy when they remember that they can always try to do better." Danny tilted his head, the way children do when they are thinking hard about something. "Like when I break my toys and Mama helps me fix them." "Exactly like that," Jake said, surprised by how well the comparison worked. Resonance dash of truth crystal body changed to a deep blue color. "You speak of errors in development and subsequent correction. This is a standard programming concept." "Not exactly," Lisa said gently. "It's more about forgiveness and second chances. The song talks about grace, which means getting something good that you did not earn." The aliens around the table made various sounds of confusion. The rock-like being, called Stone Speaker, rumbled like an earthquake. "Receiving benefits without earning them violates basic resource allocation principles." "But that's not how humans see it," Jake explained. "We believe that everyone deserves a chance to become better, even if they have made mistakes." Cloud singers. Gaseous forms swirled thoughtfully. "In our society, individuals are assigned roles based on their capabilities and performance. Those who fail to meet standards are reassigned to appropriate positions. There is no concept of unearned advancement." Danny had been listening to this exchange with the serious expression he got when adults talked about confusing things. Suddenly he spoke up again. "Can I sing the song?" "I know some of the words." Lisa started to shake her head. "Danny, sweetie, the grown-ups are having an important conversation." But Resonance of Truth's crystal body flashed bright white. "Wait, we would be interested to hear how young humans express these concepts. Our species communicates partially through harmonic frequencies. We are curious about human juvenile vocal expressions." The other aliens made sounds of agreement. Root of Ages rustled its leaves approvingly. "We have observed adult humans singing in your broadcasts, but never from developing offspring." Jake looked around the table. Every alien was watching Danny with obvious interest. "Would you like to sing for our new friends, Danny?" Danny nodded eagerly and slid down from his chair. He stood in the middle of the circle, looking very small, surrounded by 12 different types of alien beings. But he did not seem afraid at all. If anything, he looked excited to have such a large audience. He cleared his throat the way he had seen grown-ups do, then began to sing in his sweet, high voice. "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." He paused, looking confused. "Mama, what's a wretch?" Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "It means someone who feels lost or sad, sweetie." "Oh." Danny nodded and continued. "I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see." His voice was not perfect. He did not hit every note correctly, and he mixed up some of the words. But there was something pure and honest in the way he sang that made the entire room fall silent. When he finished the first verse, he looked around proudly. "That's all I know. Mama sings it to me when I have bad dreams." The silence that followed was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. It was not uncomfortable or awkward. It was the kind of silence that happens when something important has just occurred, and everyone knows it. Finally, Stone's speaker rumbled softly. The small one conveys emotional concepts with surprising effectiveness for such a young being. "There is something in the vocal patterns," Resonance of Truth added, its crystal body shifting through colors rapidly, "a quality we cannot measure or quantify." Root of Ages rustled its leaves slowly. "In our long existence, we have heard many forms of communication, but this carries meaning beyond the words themselves." Danny beamed at the praise, even though he did not understand most of it. "Do you like singing? I can teach you." The aliens exchanged what might have been glances, though it was hard to tell with being so different from humans. Cloud Singer spoke first. "We would be interested in learning more about this practice." Danny clapped his hands together. "Yay! Singing is fun. It makes sad people feel better." Jake looked at Lisa, who was staring at her son with a mixture of pride and amazement. Around the table, the most advanced beings in the galaxy were looking at a 3-year-old human child, as if he had just revealed the secrets of the universe. Maybe. Jake thought he had. Danny stood in the center of the dining hall, looking up at the 12 alien beings with bright, eager eyes. The silence after his song had been broken by their questions and comments, but now he seemed ready for more. "I know another song, too," he announced proudly. "Mama taught me Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Do you want to hear it?" Commander Jake started to gently redirect him. "Danny, maybe we should let the grown-ups talk now." But Resonance of Truth's crystal body flashed with interested colors. "Wait, Commander Miller." The harmonic patterns the young one produced were unlike anything in our databases. My species has studied sound frequencies for millions of years. Yet there was something in his vocal expression that our instruments could not properly measure. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez looked surprised. "What do you mean?" The crystal being's colors shifted to deep purple and gold. "When adults of your species sing, we can analyze the technical aspects: pitch, rhythm, volume, breath control. But the small one's performance contained elements that exist outside measurable parameters." Cloud Singer drifted closer to Danny, who watched the gaseous alien with fascination rather than fear. "We detected emotional resonance frequencies that should not be possible from such an undeveloped vocal system. It suggests that human young possess capabilities that diminish with age." "That's not diminish," said Danny, proud that he could use a big word he had just heard. "That means getting smaller. Right, Mama?" Lisa smiled, her eyes still showing traces of tears from hearing her son sing. "That's right, sweetie. Very good." Root of Ages rustled its leaves thoughtfully. "Perhaps we have been approaching this incorrectly. We assumed that younger beings would be less capable of complex communication. But this small human demonstrates something we had not considered." Stone's speaker's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "In our society, the young are silent until they achieve full intellectual development. We believed this was the natural order." Danny had been listening to the conversation with growing excitement. When the adults paused, he jumped up and down. "Can I teach you to sing? Please? It's really fun." Jake looked around the table at the alien delegates. This was not going according to any of the diplomatic protocols they had planned. The formal presentations of human culture and achievements were supposed to happen after dinner. Instead, they were having an impromptu music lesson led by a 3-year-old, but the aliens seemed genuinely interested. More than interested. They seemed amazed by something they could not understand. How would such instruction proceed? Asked a being that looked like it was made of flowing liquid metal. It had introduced itself as current of thought from the Zephyrian Collective. Danny bounced on his toes. "It's easy. You just open your mouth and make pretty sounds." Like this, he demonstrated by singing a simple scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Ti, do. The sound that followed was unlike anything that had ever happened in the history of galactic diplomacy. Resonance of Truth attempted to match the notes, producing crystal chimes that were beautiful but precise and mathematical. Cloud Singer created wind-like sounds that rose and fell like a gentle breeze. Stone Speaker's contribution sounded like rocks rolling down a mountain, but somehow it found a rhythm that matched the others. Root dash of dash ages added a rustling sound, like leaves in autumn wind. Current of Thought made musical tones that flowed like water over stones. One by one, the other aliens joined in, each adding their species' version of musical expression. The result was chaos at first. 12 different types of beings, each with completely different ways of making sound, trying to follow the lead of a 3-year-old human child. But somehow, gradually, it began to work. Danny clapped his hands with delight. That's good. That's really good. Now, try this one. He began singing Amazing Grace again, but this time he invited them to join in. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound, he sang, gesturing for them to follow along. The aliens attempted to match not just the melody, but the words. Their translation systems worked overtime. Converting the English lyrics into forms their various communication methods could. Handle. What emerged was extraordinary. Resonance of Truth sang the words as crystal harmonics that somehow conveyed meaning through pure music. Cloud Singer's gaseous form created sounds that carried the emotional weight of the lyrics, like wind carrying the scent of flowers. Stone Speaker's rocky voice added a deep, steady foundation that felt like the earth itself was singing. That saved a wretch like me, they continued, each alien adding their own interpretation of the concept. Danny giggled with pure joy. You're all really good singers. This is the best song ever. Lieutenant Ben Carter whispered to Dr. Amy Watson, Are we really watching a 3-year-old conduct a choir of alien beings? I think that's exactly what we're watching, she whispered back, tears streaming down her face. The song continued with each verse. The aliens began to understand not just the words, but the feeling behind them. When they sang, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Their various forms of expression seemed to grasp the concept of transformation and hope. Was blind, but now I see, they sang together, and somehow the phrase carried new meaning when expressed through 12 different forms of communication all at once. Danny was conducting them now, waving his small arms like he had seen people do in movies. He was completely unaware of the historical significance of what was happening. To him, this was just fun. He was making new friends and teaching them something he loved. But the adults in the room understood that they were witnessing something unprecedented. This was not just first contact anymore. This was first harmony. When the song ended, the silence was different from before. It was not the silence of confusion or surprise. It was the silence of beings who had just shared something profound together. Finally, Resonance of Truth spoke, its crystal body now glowing with soft, warm colors. We had participated in group harmonic expression before, but never with such emotional integration. The small one guided us to express concepts that our individual species have never fully understood, added Cloud Singer. Danny looked around at all the alien faces, or what he assumed were faces, beaming with pride. Did you like it? We sounded really pretty together. Yes, said Root of Ages, its leaves rustling gently. We sounded pretty together. Stone Speaker rumbled approvingly. This small human has achieved what our diplomatic corps have attempted for centuries. He has created unity from diversity. Danny did not understand the big words, but he understood that the aliens were happy. He ran over to his mother, who picked him up and hugged him tightly. Mama, did you hear us sing? We were like a big family. Lisa kissed the top of his head, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, sweetie, you were like a big family. Jake looked around the room at the 12 alien delegates. Each one was exhibiting what he could only describe as contentment. Their various forms of body language all suggested satisfaction and peace. 3-year-old boy had just accomplished what humanity's greatest diplomats had only dreamed of. He had not just made contact with alien civilizations. He had made them. Sing together, Dot, and somehow Jake realized this was only the beginning. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez stood holding her son Danny, watching the 12 alien delegates as they continued to make soft musical sounds. Even after the song had ended, some of them seemed unable to stop. Resonance of Truth's crystal body still glowed, with warm colors, while Cloud Singer's gaseous form swirled in gentle rhythmic patterns. This was her moment. Lisa had spent 5 years preparing for this meeting, studying every signal and message the aliens had sent to Earth. She had written dozens of reports about human culture, prepared presentations about art and music and literature. But nothing she had planned could have prepared her for what had just happened. Danny had shown the aliens something that all her academic knowledge could not have demonstrated. Now she needed to help them understand what they had just experienced. "What you just witnessed," Lisa began, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "is something very special about human children." The aliens turned their attention to her. Stone Speaker rumbled softly. "The young one displayed capabilities that exceed our understanding of juvenile development." "That's because you're thinking about it wrong," Lisa said gently. "Danny didn't do something advanced for his age. He did something that comes naturally to human children, but that we often lose as we grow older. Current of thought's liquid." Metal form rippled with interest. "Explain this contradiction. How can abilities decrease with maturity?" Lisa looked down at Danny, who was now playing with a small toy spaceship he had pulled from his pocket. He was making quiet whooshing sounds as he flew it through the air, completely unaware that the most important conversation in human history was happening around him. "Human children are born with something we call innocence," she said. "They don't know that some things are supposed to be impossible. They don't understand why people shouldn't like each other. They believe that everyone can be friends, that broken things can be fixed, that tomorrow will be better than today." Root of Ages rustled its leaves thoughtfully. "This sounds like poor preparation for survival. Unrealistic expectations lead to failure and disappointment." "You would think so," Lisa agreed. "But here's what makes humans different from your species. We never completely lose that childhood hope, even when we grow up and learn about the real world. It stays inside us, and sometimes it pushes us to do impossible things." She gestured toward the circle where they had all been singing together just minutes before. Danny didn't know that getting 12 different alien species to sing together was impossible. So he just asked you to do it, and you did. Resonance of Truth's colors shifted to deep blue and silver. "We have observed human children in your broadcasts. We assumed their behavior patterns were simply inefficient development phases." "No," Lisa said firmly. "Those behavior patterns are what make us human." When Danny sang Amazing Grace, he wasn't just making sounds. He was sharing something that humans have believed for thousands of years. "The concept of grace," Commander Jake Miller added, stepping forward to stand beside Lisa. "The idea that beings can change, that mistakes don't define us forever, that everyone deserves a second chance." Cloud Singer drifted closer, its form pulsing gently. "Our civilizations have achieved stability by eliminating such variables. We assign roles based on capability and maintain them consistently. Change introduces chaos. But change also introduces growth," Lisa replied. "Human civilization is built on the belief that we can become better than we were, not just as individuals, but as a species." She looked around at the alien delegates, seeing their confusion and growing interest. "Your species have achieved perfection through order and logic. You've eliminated war, poverty, suffering. You've built stable societies that last for millions of years. These are significant achievements," Stone Speaker rumbled with obvious pride. "They are," Lisa agreed. "But what happens when you face something new? Something that doesn't fit your established patterns?" The question hung in the air. Several of the aliens made sounds that their translation systems couldn't interpret properly. Current of Thought was the first to respond. We adapt our systems to incorporate new data. We modify our approaches based on logical analysis. But do you change? Lisa asked. Do you grow? Do you become something you weren't before? Danny looked up from his toy. Spaceship. Mama, why are you talking so serious? Lisa smiled and ruffled his hair. I'm trying to explain to our new friends why you're so special, sweetie. I'm not special, Danny said matter-of-factly. I'm just me. Everyone is just them, and that's okay. The simple statement seemed to hit the aliens like a physical force. Root of Ages leaves rustled violently. Resonance of Truth's crystal body flashed through dozens of colors in rapid succession. The young one expresses acceptance of individual variation without hierarchical classification. Stone Speaker said slowly. He doesn't see differences as problems to be solved, Lisa explained. To Danny, the fact that you all look different and sound different and think different just makes you more interesting. He doesn't need you to be like him to be his friend. Current of Thought rippled thoughtfully. In our collective, individuals must maintain harmony through conformity. Deviation from established patterns creates instability. But look what happened when you all tried to sing together, Jake pointed out. You didn't become the same. You each contributed something unique, and together you created something beautiful that none of you could make alone. Danny had wandered over to Resonance of Truth and was looking up at the crystal being with curious eyes. Can I touch you? You look like the pretty rocks in Mama's garden. The alien seemed surprised by the request. Physical contact is not typically part of diplomatic interaction. Danny, Lisa started to call him back, but Resonance of Truth interrupted. However, we are curious about human tactile communication. The crystal being lowered itself closer to Danny's level. You may make contact. Danny reached out and gently touched the alien's crystal surface. His face lit up with wonder. You're warm. And you make little music sounds when I touch you? Indeed. Soft harmonic tones were emanating from where Danny's small hand rested on the crystal surface. Fascinating, Resonance of Truth said. The harmonic resonance is unlike anything we have experienced. There is no fear, no aggression, no desire to possess or control. Only ... curiosity and acceptance. Danny giggled. You tickle. Do all of you feel different? Before anyone could stop him, he had moved to Cloud Singer, reaching out to touch the gaseous form. His hand passed through the alien's outer edge, and both child and alien seemed delighted by the experience. The small one approaches each of. Use without preconceptions, Cloud Singer observed, its form swirling around Danny's arm in a gentle, playful way. He does not categorize us as threats or resources. We are simply new friends to explore. Danny was now moving from alien to alien, each one allowing him to make contact in whatever way was appropriate for their species. Stone Speaker led. Him pat its rocky surface. Root of Ages lowered a small branch for him to hold. Current of Thought formed a small tendril that Danny could shake like a hand. This is what we mean, Lisa said, watching her son interact with beings that represented the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Human children don't just accept differences. They celebrate them. They find joy in discovering new ways of being. Jake nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. And that quality doesn't completely disappear when we grow up. It's what drives. Used to explore space, to seek out new life, to keep asking, what if, even when logic says we should be satisfied with what we have. Resonance of Truth's crystal body was now glowing with soft, steady light. You are suggesting that human imperfection is actually a form of strength. Not just strength, Lisa said. It's evolution. Your species achieves stability by reaching a perfect state and maintaining it. Humans evolve by constantly becoming something new. Danny had finished his tour of alien handshakes and was back at his mother's side. Mama, they're all really nice. Even though they're different, they all feel like friends inside. Feel like friends inside, repeated Root of Ages slowly. The young one speaks of emotional recognition that transcends physical differences. That's the gift human children give us, Lisa said, lifting Danny into her arms again. They remind us that connection is possible across any divide, that understanding doesn't require sameness, and that the universe is big enough for everyone to be exactly who they are. The aliens were quiet for a long moment, processing what they had experienced and learned. Finally, Cloud Singer spoke for all of them. We begin to understand why your species was chosen for contact. Your flaws are not obstacles to be overcome. They are features that allow for continuous growth and adaptation. Danny yawned, suddenly tired from all the excitement. Can we sing another song tomorrow? I know lots of songs. Yes, little one, Resonance of Truth said gently. We would very much like to learn more songs tomorrow. As Danny dozed in his mother's arms, the adult humans and alien delegates looked at each other with new understanding. They had come here for formal diplomatic contact. Instead, they had discovered something far more valuable. They had learned that the universe was not just vast and full of different life forms. It was vast and full of different ways to be alive. And somehow, a 3-year-old human child had shown them that this was not something to. Danny woke up from his nap in his mother's arms just as the formal diplomatic session was supposed to begin. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez had planned to present humanity's greatest achievements to the Xantharian Council. She had prepared slides about human art, science, literature, and technology. But as she looked around the room at the 12 alien delegates, she realized that her 3-year-old son had already accomplished more than any presentation could. The aliens were different now. Before Danny's song, they had maintained formal positions around the conference table, each species keeping to their designated areas. Now they had moved closer together, their various forms of communication creating a gentle background symphony of sounds. Lights and movements. Commander Jake Miller stood to begin the formal proceedings, but Danny squirmed out of his mother's arms and walked to the center of the room. Wait, he said in his clear, loud voice. Before the grown-ups do their talking, can we sing one more song together? I want to teach you my favorite one. Jake started to gently redirect him. Danny, this is important business time now. But Resonance of Truth's crystal body flashed with warm colors. We will be honored to learn another song from the small teacher. Small teacher, repeated Root of Ages with approval. An appropriate designation for one who has instructed us in ways we did not know we needed to learn. Danny beamed at being called a teacher. He had never been called that before, and it made him feel very important and grown-up. Okay, he said, clapping his hands together. This song is really special. It's called This Little Light of Mine. My grandma taught it to me before she went to heaven. Cloud Singer drifted closer. Heaven is the human concept of continued existence after physical termination, correct? Grandma said it's where all the good people go to sing and be happy forever, Danny explained seriously. She said everyone has a little light inside them, and the song is about letting it shine. The aliens exchanged what might have been glances, though it was difficult to tell it being so different from humans. Illuminate the concept of internal luminescence, requested Stone Speaker, his rocky voice rumbling with interest. Danny thought. For a moment, his face scrunched up in concentration. Well, it's not like a real light. It's the good feelings you have inside. Like when you help someone, or when you're nice to people who are sad. Grandma said it makes you glow on the inside. Current of thought rippled thoughtfully. Metaphorical. Energy emission based on positive behavioral patterns. Intriguing concept. I don't know those big words, Danny said cheerfully. But I know the song makes people feel better. Want to learn it? Without waiting for an answer, he began to sing in his sweet, clear voice. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. The melody was simple and repetitive, perfect for beings who were still learning human musical concepts. Danny gestured for the aliens to join in, and, one by one, they began to add their voices to his dot-resonant dash of truth-created crystal harmonics that seemed to actually glow brighter as the song continued. Cloud Singer's gaseous form began to emit a soft, warm light that pulsed in rhythm with the music. Stone Speaker's contribution sounded like the earth itself was singing, deep and steady and strong. Hide it under a bushel? No, I'm gonna let it shine, Danny sang, and the aliens followed along, their translation systems working to convert the concepts into forms they could understand and express. What happened next was something that none of the humans had expected. As the song continued, the aliens began to literally shine. Not just the ones like Resonance of Truth, who were naturally luminous, but all of them. Root of Ages leaves began to glow with soft green light. Current of Thought's metallic surface reflected light in patterns that seemed to dance. Even the aliens who had appeared completely solid before were now emanating gentle radiance. Don't let Satan blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine, Danny continued, not noticing the miraculous transformation happening around him. To him, this was just what happened when people sang together. It made everyone brighter and happier. But the adults in the room were witnessing something unprecedented. The alien delegates were not just participating in the song. They were being transformed by it. Their various forms of body language all indicated joy, wonder, and something that could only be described as spiritual awakening. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. They all sang together, and the room filled with light and music unlike anything that had ever existed before. When the song ended, the glow slowly faded, but something in the atmosphere had permanently changed. The aliens looked at each other, then at the humans, then at Danny, who was bouncing up and down with excitement. That was the best singing ever, he announced. You all have really pretty lights inside you. Resonance of Truth spoke first. Its voice filled with something that sounded like awe. We have experienced something that our databases cannot classify. A transformation that defies our understanding of physics and biology. The small one has activated dormant capabilities within. Oops, added Cloud Singer, still glowing faintly. Capabilities we did not know we possess. Dr. Amy Watson whispered to Lieutenant Ben Carter, did a 3-year-old just teach 12 alien species how to literally let their inner light shine? I think that's exactly what happened, Ben whispered back. Danny walked over to each alien, in turn, looking up at them with proud satisfaction. See? I told you everyone has a light inside. You just have to let it out. Root of Ages lowered a glowing branch toward Danny. Small teacher, you have shown us something that millions of years of evolution and technological advancement could not reveal. We have forgotten that we were capable of dot-dot luminescence. I don't think you forgot, Danny said thoughtfully. I think you just needed someone to remind you it was okay to shine, Stone Speaker rumbled softly. In our society, individual distinction is discouraged. We maintain unity through conformity. But this is unity through celebration of our unique contributions. Current of Thought formed the small, glowing tendril that Danny shook like a hand. The small one has demonstrated that diversity and harmony are not opposing concepts. They are complementary forces. Danny nodded seriously, even though he didn't understand all the big words. Grandma always said that's what makes a good song. Lots of different voices singing together, but each one being itself. Commander Jake Miller looked around the room at the alien delegates, all still glowing faintly with their inner light. I think Danny has just accomplished something that our finest diplomats and scientists could never have achieved. What's that? Asked Lisa, watching her son with tears of pride in her eyes. He's shown them that they don't have to choose between being individuals and being part of something larger, Jake replied. He's taught them that they can shine their own light while still harmonizing with others. Danny had climbed up onto his chair and was swinging his legs happily. Can we sing more songs tomorrow? I know row, row, row your boat, And if you're happy and you know it, and lots of others. The alien delegates made sounds of agreement that needed no translation. They were eager to learn more from their small teacher. "We have a proposal," Resonance of Truth announced, its crystal body glowing with steady, warm light. "We came here to evaluate humanity's worthiness for galactic citizenship. But the small one has shown us that the question was wrong." "How so?" Jake asked. "We should not be asking if humanity is worthy of joining us," Cloud Singer explained. "We should be asking if we are worthy of learning from humanity." Danny looked around the room at all the glowing alien faces, his own face shining with happiness. "Of course you're worthy. Everyone is worthy of being friends and singing songs together." And somehow, coming from a 3-year-old who had just taught the galaxy's most advanced civilizations how to let their inner light shine, those words carried the weight of universal truth. The formal diplomatic session had not even begun, but Danny had already stolen the show. And in doing so, he had stolen the hearts of 12 alien civilizations, who were discovering that there was still much they could learn about what it meant to be alive in this vast, beautiful universe. 3 hours later, Danny Rodriguez Miller was fast asleep in his mother's arms, completely unaware that he had just changed the course of galactic history. The formal diplomatic session had never happened. Instead, the 12 representatives of the Xantharian Council had spent the afternoon learning songs, sharing stories, and discovering that the universe was far more wonderful than they had ever imagined. Commander Jake Miller stood at the viewing window of the Starbound Harmony, watching the alien station grow smaller as their ship prepared for the journey home to Earth, but they were not leaving empty-handed. In his pocket was a document that would change everything for humanity. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez joined him at the window, still carrying her sleeping son. "I keep thinking this must be a dream," she said softly. "When I woke up this morning, I was worried about giving a presentation on human cultural achievements. I never imagined that Danny would become Earth's most effective ambassador." Behind them, the crew was busy preparing for departure, but their movements were different now. There was a lightness in the air, a sense of joy that had not been there on the journey to the station. Lieutenant Ben Carter was humming Amazing Grace as he worked at his console. Dr. Amy Watson had tears of happiness in her eyes as she reviewed the medical data from their encounter with the aliens. The door to the observation deck opened, and Chief Communications Officer Kate Sullivan entered with a smile that seemed to light up the room. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the station. They want to say goodbye to Danny." Jake looked at the sleeping child. "Should we wake him?" "Let me try," Lisa said gently. She whispered in Danny's ear, "Sweetie, your new friends want to say goodbye." Danny's eyes opened slowly, the way children wake up from naps, confused and sleepy. "Are we going home now, Mama?" "Yes, sweetie, but your friends want to talk to you." Before we leave, Danny perked up immediately. "My singing friends? Can I talk to them?" Kate activated the communication system, and the familiar voices of the alien delegates filled the room. But something was different about their voices now. There was warmth in them, emotion that had not been there before. "Small teacher, Kane, the crystal voice of Resonance of Truth, we wanted to express our gratitude before you return to your home world." Danny rubbed his eyes and looked around for the aliens, confused by hearing their voices without seeing them. "Where are you?" "I can't see you. We are speaking to you across the distance between our ships," explained Cloud Singer's wind-like voice. "But we will carry the memory of our time together always." "We have reached a decision," rumbled Stone Speaker, his rocky voice somehow gentle despite its power. "The Xantharian Council votes unanimously to invite humanity into our galactic community." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. This was what they had hoped for, but after the events of the day, it seemed almost secondary to what had really been accomplished. "However," continued Root of Ages, "we are extending this invitation, not because humanity has proven worthy of joining us, but because we have learned that we need humanity among us." "I don't understand," Jake said, current dash of thoughts flowing. Voice provided the explanation. For millions of years, our civilizations have pursued perfection through order, logic, and control. We achieved stability, eliminated conflict, and created societies that function with mathematical precision. But in doing so, added a voice that belonged to one of the delegates who had not spoken much during the day, we lost something essential. We forgot how to grow, how to change, how to find joy in the unexpected. Danny was listening to all this with the serious expression he got when adults talked about important things. "Are you sad?" he asked. "We were sad," Resonance of Truth replied, "though we did not know it until today. We had forgotten what it felt like to shine from within, but now you remember." Danny said happily, "And you can teach other people too, just like I taught you." There was a pause, and then Cloud Singer spoke with what sounded like wonder. "Yes, small teacher, we can teach others. We have already begun to transmit the songs you share with us to our home worlds." "Really?" Danny bounced excitedly in his mother's arms. "Are they going to sing too?" "They are indeed," Stone Speaker confirmed. Across 12 different worlds, beings who have not made music in millennia are beginning to remember how to let their inner light shine. Lisa looked at Jake with amazement. "Danny, do you understand what you've done? You've started a musical revolution across the galaxy." Danny thought about this seriously. "Is that good?" "It's very good, sweetie," Lisa said, kissing the top of his head. The transmission continued with formal details about the treaty, about establishing embassies and trade relationships, about sharing technology and knowledge. But Jake found himself only half listening. The real breakthrough had already happened when a 3-year-old boy asked 12 ancient civilizations if they wanted to be friends. "There is one more thing," Resonance of Truth said as the formal discussion wound down. "We are establishing a new protocol for all future diplomatic encounters. We are calling it the Danny Doctrine." "What's that?" Danny asked, pleased to hear his name. "It is the recognition that wisdom often comes from the most unexpected sources," explained Root of Ages. "That innocence can teach experience, that simplicity can illuminate complexity, and that sometimes the smallest voice carries the most important message. We will ensure that in all future first contact situations, we include representatives from the youngest members of each species," added Current of Thought. "They will serve as cultural ambassadors, teaching us what we might otherwise miss." Danny clapped his hands. "That means more kids get to make friends with space people. That's awesome." The aliens made sounds of agreement that needed no translation. They had learned that awesome was indeed the right word for what happened when different beings came together in friendship, not as the communication ended, and the starbound Harmony began its journey back to Earth. Jake thought about the report he would have to write. How do you explain to the leaders of Earth that humanity had been accepted into the galactic community, not because of their technology or their achievements, but because a 3-year-old boy had taught alien civilizations how to sing? But perhaps that was exactly the point. Perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not what they had built or discovered, but what they had never lost. The ability to find wonder in the unknown, to believe in second chances, to trust that tomorrow could be better than today. Danny had fallen back asleep, his small hand clutching the toy spaceship he had been playing with earlier. Lisa looked down at her son with tears in her eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Jake asked. "His grandmother," Lisa replied softly. "She always said that Danny had a special light inside him. I don't think even she could have imagined that his light would end up shining across the entire galaxy." Outside the window, stars wheeled past in their ancient patterns. But now they seemed different somehow. They were no longer distant points of light in an empty void. They were homes, places where beings were learning to sing together, where children from different worlds would grow up knowing that the universe was vast enough for everyone to shine. Danny stirred in his sleep and mumbled something that sounded like "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." And across 12 different worlds, alien beings who had forgotten how to wonder looked up at their own stars and remembered what it felt like to dream. The treaty document in Jake's pocket was important, but it was just paper and ink. The real treaty had been written in song, signed with laughter, and sealed with the grace of a child who believed that everyone could be friends. As Amazing Grace played softly over the ship's intercom, Commander Jake Miller smiled and began planning humanity's first galactic cultural exchange program. There were so many more songs to teach, so many more friends to make, and so many more lights to help shine among the stars. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting for humanity not to join it, but to help it remember how to sing.